past the hour. Happy to welcome back to the program Stephen Howard from In Defense of Christians. Stephen, welcome back.
Good morning, Annie. Good to be with you.
It is good to have you. And there are resolutions pending in both the House and the Senate right now concerning blasphemy laws in other countries. First of all, just tell us about these resolutions. What do they say?
Absolutely. Both of these resolutions are a clear condemnation of these blasphemy laws, and they also call on any country with such a law on the books to be designated as a country of particular concern by the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, which would result in high-level actions, possibly including sanctions against any government with such laws on the books.
So, just for clarity's sake, what countries would that include at this point?
The shocking thing is that about 1/3 of the world's countries have blasphemy laws on the books.
1/3?
1/3, yes. Every continent, every religious group targeted, it's the shocking thing. But I can run through a short list here of some countries of concern for us.
Sure, please do.
Those who want to stand with Christians in the Middle East. There's a nonprofit organization, Open Doors. It's an evangelical ministry, and they produce a report every single year that actually ranks countries in the world according to persecution. One being, of course, the highest, and going down from there. And when we look at several countries on that list, you can look at Afghanistan, number 2 on their list. Lots of anti-blasphemy laws in Afghanistan. Iran, number 9. Pakistan, number 5. India, number 10. Saudi Arabia, number 13. Even many American allies have anti-blasphemy laws on the books. It's a very serious issue.
Now, one of the most notorious cases of a Christian being targeted by a blasphemy law was that of Asia Bibi, who was eventually acquitted in Pakistan, now essentially living in exile, I think somewhere in Canada. Her case came about, I think, Stephen, because of someone who wanted to act on a personal grudge against her. Is that something that happens often with these kind of laws?
It does, especially in Pakistan. Just last month, you had an American citizen, Tahir Ahmad Nasim, who was actually shot in a Pakistani courtroom, and he was just accused of blasphemy. And there were even folks who were rioting there in support of the murderer. And it was a similar thing with Asia Bibi. She was just accused of blasphemy in some kind of an interpersonal dispute. And then it became a whole international crisis where countries were offering to give her asylum. And Pakistan really was actually being very, very reluctant to help for quite a long time in that matter. So it's shocking, but there's a lot of social pressure that can get even put on the government of a country like Pakistan. And so even when someone is accused of this crime, quite often it's almost as if they're tried and the mob is the jury.
Well, in general, how do blasphemy laws affect Christians?
Well, they're incredibly common in many countries in the Middle East. For example, most countries in the Gulf states, for example, even those with whom we have close relations, such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, have these laws on the books. And really, they affect people who wish to convert to Christianity. If someone, and again, these laws are all over the world, but if you grow up in a predominantly, Christian country or a predominantly Muslim country or whatever, atheist or whatever, there are some of those countries will say, we don't want you to convert religions. Even as a citizen, if you feel you want to convert religions, if you do, we're going to charge you with this crime, which is, of course, a fundamental violation of human rights.
I was going to say, obviously you're talking to a Christian audience this morning. You work for a Christian organization, but this should not just be a concern for Christians, should it?
It affects everyone. In fact, these anti-blasphemy laws and the coalitions that we're trying to get around, stopping them, involve Christians, atheists, Muslims, every religious group, because they affect everyone. They're a violation of your freedom of speech. There's even one individual, Raif Badawi, who's been imprisoned in Saudi Arabia for years, and he's an atheist. But all he did was he started a Facebook page that said something like Muslims, Jews, Christians, and atheists are equal, which is a fairly obvious statement. And he's been in prison ever since. Vice President Pence has spoken out about his case. The United States Commission on International Religious Freedom has spoken out on his case. He's being held in prison in Saudi Arabia with legitimate terrorists. And in fact, there was an attempt on his life yesterday. So there's really no excuse for these laws to be on the books. They're punishing people just for exercising their basic rights, and it's shameful.
We're talking to Stephen Howard of In Defense of Christians about blasphemy laws around the world and a couple of resolutions in Congress that speak out against these and call for any country with blasphemy laws on the books to be named a country of particular concern and perhaps be subject to sanctions. Stephen, how realistic is it to put a third of the world on a list of countries of particular concern, particularly when you're talking about some of our U.S. allies?
Well, it's important to note that the what we call the CPC designation is a tool. It is a leverage point, and in the past it has been used to really incentivize improved behavior. So a CPC designation, it doesn't break the relationship diplomatically between the U.S. and all these countries. And what it really does is it sets the bar higher and says, we're happy to continue to have relations with you, maybe fund programs in your country, business exchanges, education exchanges, whatever the case may be, but you're not going to get that type of support from the United States of America if you're not going to respect the rights of your own people. So that is our vision for what the U.S. should stand for. We believe that American values should dictate American foreign policy, and persecuted people across the world, we hope, will continue to look to the U.S. as an advocate for freedom.
Is there widespread support for these resolutions in Congress, do you think?
Yes, both of them are bipartisan, and the House resolution actually passed through a committee earlier this year, and so should be on a trajectory to get voted on, probably unanimously or overwhelmingly. And that was actually introduced by now White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin. That was House Resolution 512. And Senate Resolution 458 is also bipartisan. It was introduced by Senator James Lankford and Senator Chris Coons. And Senator Lankford is really trying to get that on something called the consent calendar, which means if we can get it to the Senate floor, it can hopefully bypass committee entirely, and the whole chamber should be able to vote on it. Well, so we need people to take action. That's very important. It's on our website, In Defense of Christians, right underneath the Take Action link.
And you can find In Defense of Christians linked at sunrisemorningshow.com to get more information. Stephen Howard, thank you so much.
Thank you, Annie. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Our enforcement. Joe Biden was on the campaign trail yesterday and saying in a speech that President Trump has made America a more dangerous place. Mike Bauer reports.
Quote, "You won't be safe in